It started with a knock on the door I didn't expect. I was halfway through my morning coffee when I opened it to find a man in a navy polo shirt, holding a clipboard. "Mr. Dawson?" he asked, polite but cold. "Yes," I replied. "I'm with the Oak Ridge Homeowners Association. We've received a formal complaint regarding your property." For a second, I thought he had the wrong house. My lawn was trimmed, my flower beds neat, and my siding freshly power washed. But when he handed me the paper, I saw it, violation notice number 1842. The complaint: improper lawn decoration and violation of neighborhood aesthetic guidelines. My stomach dropped. Improper lawn decoration. It could only mean one thing: my new garden gnome. A harmless, red-hatted gnome I'd placed by the mailbox. A little gift from my daughter Emma, who loved the thing. The HOA representative, who introduced himself as Brent, continued: "You'll need to remove the item or face a fine of $200 per week." I looked at the paper again and saw the signature at the bottom: Karen Matthews. My next-door neighbor. Everyone in the subdivision knew Karen. Perfectly trimmed hedges, ruler straight lines in her grass, and a permanent scowl for anything she didn't approve of. I couldn't believe it. "You mean she actually filed a complaint about a garden gnome?" I asked. Brent shrugged. "I just enforce the rules, sir." That evening, I walked outside and caught Karen staring from her porch, arms crossed, like she was waiting to see if I'd surrender. I didn't. Instead, I waved politely. "Evening, Karen," I said. She didn't wave back. "You know the rules, Daniel. This neighborhood has standards." "Standards?" I asked, my voice tightening. "It's a gnome, not a wrecked car." Karen smiled, one of those smiles that said she'd already won. "The HOA will decide." By the next day, my mailbox was full of gossip. Neighbors whispering, some secretly amused, others annoyed that Karen had struck again. But I wasn't about to roll over. I called the HOA office myself, demanding an explanation. "Sir," Brent said again, his voice bored and official, "if you want to contest the complaint, you can attend the next HOA meeting. Otherwise, you're expected to make things right or face escalating fines." I hung up, furious but curious. Maybe it was time someone finally stood up to Karen. And the HOA she practically ruled. The gnome wasn't coming down. Not yet. The meeting was held in the Oak Ridge Community Hall, a spotless beige room that smelled like coffee and control. I took a seat near the back, clutching my folder of photos proving that my gnome wasn't disruptive. Karen sat in the front row, arms folded, eyes cutting toward me every few seconds. Around her sat the familiar faces of the HOA board, retired couples, a real estate agent, and Brent with his clipboard. When the agenda reached violation number 1842, Brent cleared his throat. "We've received a complaint from Ms. Matthews regarding a lawn ornament on Mr. Dawson's property. She claims it violates Section 3B of the Neighborhood Aesthetic Code." Karen spoke next. "This community was designed to maintain a unified, upscale appearance. A gnome, especially one painted bright red, is out of place. It cheapens the look of our neighborhood." The smug tone in her voice made my blood boil. When they invited me to respond, I stood, trying to stay calm. "It's a garden decoration, not an eyesore. It's 6 inches tall. My daughter gave it to me. There's nothing in Section 3B that forbids small decorative figures." One of the older board members, Mrs. Carter, leaned forward. "Actually, that's true. The guidelines refer to large or offensive items." Karen interrupted. "It's subjective. The color is distracting. My guests notice it immediately." I turned to her. "Your guests must not get out much." A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Karen's face tightened. Brent tapped his pen. "Order, please." The board whispered among themselves. After a few tense minutes, Brent announced, "The HOA board will deliberate further. For now, we ask Mr. Dawson to refrain from adding additional decorations until a decision is made. Karen smiled like she'd just been crowned queen of the subdivision. I walked out before the meeting ended. 2 days later, a new letter appeared on my porch. The HOA had decided I had to make things right or be fined. $200 weekly starting Monday. I stared at the paper, disbelief giving way to determination. If Karen wanted a war over a gnome, she'd get one. But I wasn't going to fight dirty. No, I'd fight smart. The next day, I went to the hardware store. And I bought 5 more gnomes. By the weekend, Oak Ridge was buzzing. My front yard, once the epitome of suburban neatness, now sported 6 cheerful gnomes, one reading a book, one holding a lantern, and another fishing beside my small pond. Karen nearly choked on her morning smoothie when she saw them. Within hours, I received another notice taped to my door. Second warning. Additional violations noted. The HOA gave me 72 hours to comply. Instead of removing the gnomes, I decided to raise the stakes. I started mowing my lawn in perfectly symmetrical stripes, better than any landscaper could manage, and added tasteful solar lights along the walkway. My property looked pristine, magazine-worthy, except for the tiny gnomes guarding it. That Sunday, a few neighbors stopped by. "You're my hero," one whispered, laughing. "She reported my wind chimes last year." Another said, "Don't back down. Someone has to put her in her place." The quiet support from my neighbors fueled me. We'd all been under Karen's petty reign too long. Then came Monday morning. Brent showed up again, this time with a fine notice in hand. "Mr. Dawson, the board insists you comply." "Comply with what?" I asked. "I'm following every written rule." Brent hesitated. "Technically, yes. But Ms. Matthews insists the decorations are against the spirit of the HOA's standards." "The spirit?" I laughed. "So now we're fining people for vibes?" He didn't respond. Just handed me the fine and left. That night, I drafted a letter. A formal appeal, complete with citations from the HOA handbook and photos proving that Karen herself was in violation. Her garbage bins, left visible from the street, broke Section 5A. By Tuesday afternoon, I'd emailed copies to the entire board. Within an hour, Karen was storming across her lawn, shouting, "How dare you!" "Just following the rules," I said with a smile. The next day, half the neighborhood attended the emergency HOA meeting called to restore peace. But the tide was turning. People began airing their own grievances, her complaints, her arrogance, her constant tattling. By the end of the night, the board looked exhausted. Brent finally sighed. "Enough." Effective immediately. Lawn ornaments of reasonable size and design will be permitted. The crowd applauded. Karen, red-faced, stormed out. And my gnomes. They stayed right where they were. Weeks passed, and Oak Ridge felt lighter. People started chatting again. Kids played in front yards. Someone even put up a pink flamingo, a bold move that made me grin. Karen, however, was quieter. Her blinds stayed drawn. Her lawn, once the envy of the street, started looking neglected. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then, one afternoon, she approached me. I was watering the garden when I saw her marching over, holding something behind her back. "Daniel," she began stiffly. "I wanted to speak with you." I turned off the hose. "Sure, Karen. What's up?" She hesitated. I overreacted. The HOA, things got out of hand. I didn't mean to cause all this. I raised an eyebrow. "You fined me over a 6-inch gnome." Her lips twitched. "I thought I was protecting the neighborhood's reputation." She paused. Then pulled out what she'd been holding, a small garden gnome, holding a tiny watering can. "I found this at the store. Thought maybe you could add it to your collection." For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or call it a trap. But the look on her face, awkward, embarrassed, human, told me it was genuine. I accepted the gnome. Thanks, Karen. Maybe we both learned something. She nodded. Maybe. Then, almost whispering, for what it's worth, your lawn looks nice. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, I placed her gnome among the others. Emma came running out, giggling. Daddy, there's a new one. Yep, I said, smiling. Even Karen likes it. Life in Oak Ridge slowly returned to normal. The HOA backed off, now wary of overstepping. Neighbors began decorating their yards. Freely but tastefully, small touches of individuality. Returning to the once sterile streets. Sometimes, I'd catch Karen peeking from her window. Not scowling, but watching quietly. I even saw her chatting with Mrs. Carter one morning, smiling for real. Maybe the fight over a silly gnome was exactly what we all needed, to remind us that rules don't build community, people do. And every time I walked past that little row of gnomes, I couldn't help but grin. They weren't just decorations anymore. They were a symbol that sometimes, making things right doesn't mean giving in. It means standing your ground, until even the Karens of the world learn to see the beauty in a little imperfection.